As tuition rates skyrocket, education leaders say more Americans are opting out of college.
We've turned millions in my generation into unemployable debtors who started off adulthood with a negative net worth.
According to the National Student Clearinghouse, only about 61% of first-time students earn a degree within 6 years. Completion rates are lower for non-traditional and part-time learners, but lawmakers argue innovation can change how Americans afford and finish school.
Today, most students are non-traditional, working adults, parents, caregivers, and veterans whose needs and schedules look very different from an 18-year-old living on campus.
More colleges are utilizing high-quality online classes to make learning more accessible. They are also introducing course-sharing partnerships, which allow students to take classes at other universities to complete their degree requirements.
Traditionally, colleges and universities have been very insular institutions.
Republican lawmakers say the White House is accelerating this progress by prioritizing AI literacy to streamline coursework. But Democrats argue those efforts won't matter due to educational funding cuts made under the One Big Beautiful Bill Act.
Cutting these programs without offering an alternative solution to address the rising cost of college will adversely affect low-income borrowers.
A bipartisan bill, the College Transparency Act, is making its way through Congress and would require colleges to report more detailed data on cost and academic outcomes. In Washington, Jared Halpern, Fox News.
Yeah! We are back here on WLTH 1370M. That is 92.7 in the FM dial. If you're nasty, it is 6:41 in the PM here on March the 27th, 2026. The future's here. The future is now. And if you heard the intro, the future is not looking so good for people who are in college these days. College tuition has actually increased 914%. You heard that right. 914% since 1983. That's incredible.
Money, money, money.
Yes, you got to have a lot of money to go to college today. This has outpaced medical care, housing, gas, and every other household cost. Think about that. 914% over the last 40-something years. Tuition has risen at an average rate of 5.5% since 1983, according to the BLS Consumer Price Index data cited in this report. Now, if you want to put something like this into context, housing prices have risen 261%. So you're comparing 914% to 261% over the same period. Cars have gone up 77% in the same period. So college stands alone at over 900% more expensive than it was just over 40 years ago. For families with children currently enrolled in college, costs at a 4-year in-state public university have climbed just 45% in the past decade. 45%. Total financial aid, meanwhile, has only increased 11% in the same span. Families now absorb 48% of college costs from income and investments, up from 38% just 12 years ago. The debt picture is just as bleak. Student loan balances have gone up by 343% since 2005. From $370 billion to $1.64 trillion, more than 3 times the pace of tuition increases during that same period. Good Lord. Amongst recent college graduates who carry student debt, 97% report having delayed or abandoned life milestones, including buying a home or starting a family, according to a survey cited in the report. Now, I think it's time to understand why this happened. And the answer is, just like virtually everything else in our society that has gone wrong over the last 50 years, 40, 50 years, it is Ronald Reagan. Yes, history's greatest monster, Ronald Reagan. That guy. Now, how can I blame Ronald Reagan for this? Well, Timmy, upon taking office in 1967, Ronald Reagan proposed a $400 tuition fee for the University of California to combat a 10% budget cut, ending the state's historically free tuition model. And as always, there's always been a racial element to this.
In a Now This forum, President Biden highlighted the astronomical rise in college tuition. But what if I told you that almost 50 years ago, college used to be free or affordable at many institutions? So what changed in the last few decades? It probably won't surprise you to learn that expensive tuition fees have a racist past.
In the last 40 years, the four-year university cost of a four-year university has tripled in the last 40 years to go to the school to begin with.
Before the 1970s, many state institutions offered attendance at a low or free rate, though there was never a nationwide standard on the cost to attend college. During this time, there was an outcry of protest across the U.S. against the Vietnam War, especially on college campuses. A large number of these protests were led by the Brown Berets, a pro-Chicano organization that emerged in the late 1960s, and the Black Panther Party, a Marxist, Leninist, and Black Power political organization. These organizations were seen as a huge threat by many government officials. Ronald Reagan was elected as governor of California in 1966, and during his campaign, he constantly spoke against the University of California system and that he had plans to change it. Once in office, he proposed that the UC system should charge tuition to attend college, as he planned to cut its government funding by 10%. Before Reagan, UC had a 100-year tradition of free education for California residents. In one of his early speeches about the University of California, Reagan admitted that tuition would help get rid of undesirables. What could he have meant by undesirables? Though Reagan maintained that he cut funding because the state needed more money, it seems that his actions were also fueled by a desire to make college less accessible to certain people. Reagan's education cuts and tuition increases in California ultimately inspired campuses across the country to follow suit. These exclusionary ideologies that inspired the increase of tuition in the 1970s are what helped pave the way for racial financial inequality today. There's approximately $1.6 trillion in student loan debt currently, and that number is only growing. Black and African American college students owe an average of $25,000 more in student loan debt than white college graduates. 33% of Hispanic student borrowers say that they put off getting married and having kids due to their student loan debt. Higher education is supposedly the key to a better future, but it shouldn't come at such a high price. Biden's loan forgiveness plan is decreasing the amount of debt for a lot of people, but a lot more work is needed to change the future of higher education in the U.S.
Yep, so there you have it. There you have it. As everything, it's Reagan. Hold on, caller. I'll get to you in a few. Reagan did not like the fact that the University of California's colleges were ground zero for anti-war protests during Vietnam. And so he believed that enforcing a tuition mandate would curb campus radicalism, meaning being anti the Vietnam War, and that college was a private benefit aimed at profit-making skills rather than a public good. And that is why American colleges to this day have gone in the direction they've gone into the direction of profit-making institutions rather than institutions that are doing a public good, teaching young people how to think. Reagan insisted that tuition increases must be accompanied by increased loans, laying the groundwork for the modern student debt crisis. As president, he continued to cut federal student aid, promoting a national loan-based model for higher education financing. And so that's what it is. Richard Nixon, Ronald Reagan, the right in this country realized that kids who were educated were anti-war and were not going to voluntarily at least go to Vietnam or any other wars. They recognized that educated people were less compliant with the system, were less likely to want to be exploited by the capitalists and the corporatists. And so they decided to make college cost prohibitive. And that started the slide that we are on right now. Before I get to this call, let me just say this. The Palantir CEO, Alex Karp, one of the evil bastards from the first block of the show, one of the billionaire AI surveillance state people, he is now urging people to skip colleges, saying unless you're neurodivergent, meaning you have some sort of, you have ADD or you're autistic or have Asperger's or something. He said the only path left is skilled trade. Now, mind you, these are people, they're telling you not to send your kid to college, but they all send their kids to college. Think about that. They send their kids to college. So again, this has always been an operation to pull the ladder up behind them. That's what this has been. This has been since the 70s, since Nixon, and I know Vic's gonna call and tell us about the Powell memo, but since that era, and especially since Reagan, it's been about pulling up the ladder behind them, taking away anything that will allow poor and working class people to get a leg up. Even things like sports. Has anybody else noticed that, like at the NBA, the NFL, you see a lot of rich kids in the NBA and the NFL now? When I was a kid, the NBA was full of poor kids, poor black kids from the country or from the ghetto for the most part, working class at richest, Michael Jordan and Magic Johnson, those types of dudes were working class. But guys like Isaiah Thomas and Allen Iverson and all those dudes came from the hood. The NBA was full of hood guys and country guys. Now the NBA is full of foreigners and Nepo babies. They're about to employ the same model in the NFL. Foreigners and Nepo babies. Music is full of Nepo babies now. Now the arts have always had a certain level of nepotism in them. Whether we're talking about the Jacksons or we're talking about, a lot of the singers, there's always been a certain amount, but for the most part, the biggest superstars came from poverty. Generally speaking, Elvis, the Jacksons before they got famous. Elvis, most of these people came from either the country or they came from the ghetto. Hollywood is full of Nepo babies. Again, modeling. All you see, the biggest models now, you see them on TV or in magazine, all Nepo babies or foreigners. They have systemically taken every single avenue that poor and working class people have used to improve their life situation. And now college, you can't even go to college, can't even afford to go to college anymore. Let me get this caller. Hello, caller, what's up?
Well, good evening.
What's up?
Great show as always. I appreciate it. A lot of times if I share this like this, we tend to look at things as if they're PowerPoint conditional, issues, right? Instead of being able to look at things dynamically, like the idea of everything is about how jobs are good or what we're going to do, and realizing that the new industrial revolution is about to happen, and probably within, they say, 4 or 5 years, 100 million people, 10 million people out of work.
Yep.
With no replacement.
Nope.
No replacement. Now, we're thinking about failures, right, as the guy that doesn't have a job, or the kid doesn't make good grades in school, or the one that's ugly, or the people we don't like because they got to. I think we got to kind of somehow get to a systematic rearrangement where, like, we're all American. I mean, what luck is that, right?
Right.
I mean, again, the idea that, like, in probably 12 years or so, up to 100 million workers out of work.
Yep, very soon.
And now the argument right now, take away from that for a second, is Social Security.
Mm-hmm.
Now, Social Security, through experts, we've got about 84 payments left until an automatic reduction by like up to 25% of your, right? And so they can't figure out whether they want to privatize Social Security so it could generate a profit, or if maybe we could raise the taxes on the billionaire guys, right?
Oh, we can't do that. We can't do that.
But honestly, we got people. There are people there are making the argument and discussing how and why, and we kind of in the news world it's to totally avoid it. But I mean, the idea that Social Security has a $180,000 tax cap, right? That's how it works. And so, I mean, that you make like about $2 million a year, you got a Social Security tax cap of $180,000.
Yeah.
Now you're making the average wage in Indiana, which is less than $40,000, and you're paying the same amount.
Right.
And then the idea we don't ever have money for anything, of course, because after all, we're not really worthy of that investment. But somehow we build a new battleship.
Yep.
Or a new security system for the police, or hey, the policing has to be more precise because after all, they catch all the idea of public safety is like firemen, and catching a robbery in act is probably extremely rare.
Mm-hmm.
As with the murder, extremely rare. And with other of the major crimes most people are frightened of, the police really don't do anything. They can't do anything because they're not there.
They're not.
But they can't be there either. So we depend on ourselves as being good citizens to treat our neighbors like we treat ourselves.
Exactly. And again, that's how you know it's not about improving our conditions, improving our lives. It's about expanding the surveillance state. Thank you for your call, Vic, but I got to go to another caller.
Hey, spin that wheel. Get that dog. Spin
All
that
right,
wheel.
now.
Hey, thanks a lot.
Hello, caller. What's up?
Yes. Y'all keep up the good work.
I'm doing my best.
This is nothing but systematic terrorism. And it's at every part of, I would say, anything that the government put money into or got themselves looking at, it's there. It's whether it be the military, whether it be education, whether it be finances, whether it be housing. It has always been a part of this country's structure. That's why the two-party thing, you either got a Democratic Republic or a Republican democracy. And they're the same thing, just looked at dyslexic. One is regular, and one is you look at it backwards, but it's all the same thing. That's why they did not want the Black Panther Party to create that third thing.
Exactly.
Now we got the Tea Party, we got the Alphabet Party. We're going to have a Railroad Party before it's over. But we better get our stuff together because this is a bigger thing than just what's initially hurting people.
I agree.
If you don't look at the big picture, you're going to be talking about what's in the news, and that's just giving them more time to do what they're already doing.
Exactly. I agree 100%. Thank you for your call, brother. I got to go to a break. But thank you for your call.
Yep.
All right, folks. We're at the end of the hour. Yes, we are. So you know what it's time for? It's time It's time. It's time for some happy happies. So please stay with us here on WLTH 1370M. That is 92.7 in the FM dial. If you're nasty, please stay with us here on Straight Out of the Cannon. I'll be back with the happy happies and the next hour.